In the middle of April, I had sown lettuce starts into repurposed teacups I had drilled drainage holes into. About a month later, by the middle of May, I had planted the seedlings into the ground as clumps of several plants. By the beginning of June, the lettuce seedlings had picked up in pace, showing great growth. While it had taken a bit more time for the seedlings to jumpstart their growth, they now appeared set to a great harvest in just a few weeks. The lettuce sure look nice. They have really responded to their new space and also to this grass mulch. They have sprung up with new vigor in just a few days, and I'm sure they're going to be producing larger leaves anytime soon. They appear to be getting an adequate amount of moisture up until now. I don't know if I'll have to water them in the coming weeks, only because it has been raining off and on here and there, but the weather has been hot, which is not good for lettuce. They prefer a little bit cooler, wetter temperature and weather. However, I'm positive that it will produce something, and again, this is a very quick crop. The setup here, I intend to harvest it soon as the cuttings come again, perhaps not even waiting for it to come again, because there are other plants that will take its place. The successive planting of lettuce every week or so is actually an old gardening tip. I've heard that Thomas Jefferson in Monticello would advise the planting of 1 thimbleful of lettuce every 2 weeks for a continuous harvest. I think that's a great advice, because if you plant a lot of it always, you don't get as finicky when it comes time to harvest it. Sometimes when we grow plants and they're beautiful, we don't want to even touch them. They look too good to eat. So if we have a continuous large production, we are not as precious about it, and we are sure to enjoy our garden more and probably eat healthier that way. Now, I think that the new variety I'm planting will be more appropriate with the coming hot weather, and I'll save all the other mesclun to plant later in the year. There were a few factors contributing to my first crop of lettuce finally getting a jump start. First, the protected bed was working like a charm. I had lost no plants to neighborhood groundhogs or possible deer and rabbits. It had also rained frequently, and the addition of grass mulch had kept moisture near the root zone during sunny days, completely removing the need for me to go out and water the seedlings at all. And that is a good thing, until one day there was too much of a good thing. The seasonal, welcomed rain turned into violent shooting hailstones all over the garden in an unseasonal storm. I was worried that this would spell the doom of my vegetable garden, especially targeting the fragile lettuce seedlings. It is always very discouraging when you see your garden efforts unraveling in front of your own eyes as nature throws a curveball at you, be it through groundhogs, pests, or even freak weather events. As the old maxim says, change is the only constant in nature. We just have to get used to it. This agony lasted for about 15 minutes, but soon enough the pouring stopped, and I went to check the damage to the lettuce. This is something my protected raised beds could not protect the lettuce from. While there were some battered leaves, the lettuce still looked promising. Maybe their smaller size made them less of a target of random hailstones. Would things work out in the end? We will find out after this commercial. Two weeks later, by the middle of June, things were looking remarkable. The lettuce had grown more in the last 14 days than throughout all of its existence. The clumps of seeds had developed into succulent mounds of tender leaves, perfect for picking. This here is perfect weather for lettuce growing. Not so much for the okra, so it could be struggling. We have wet weather, we have overcast skies, and temperatures in the 70s. It's a bit late, I would say. It's around beginning of June for the first harvest of lettuce. That's because I planted late. I'll harvest the whole tuft, and I'm really glad that exactly what I wanted to happen happened, which was for these small tufts of lettuce, salad lettuce, that I can just do the cut and come again style of harvesting. They just grew in these neat little tufts that I can surround with a deep layer of mulch. That way I really don't have almost any weeds around here. Just a few rogue grasses that happen to survive, like this one. But other than that, it's really easy to harvest, and I'll have a rather clean lettuce to eat, very fresh, very young. And as soon as I harvest maybe once or twice in each spot, then it'll be time to retire the lettuces from here, and hopefully by then the okra picks up as the intense heat of summer comes along. And that way the lettuce will not be competing with the okra by then. We'll continue mulching, but what I'm going to do now is just enjoy my harvest. The lettuce has struggled a bit in the first month of existence because I had used a rather heavy mix in the cups when they grew, coupled with the fact that they were crowded in these small cups outside instead of coddled indoors, made them compete for nutrients, only finding abundance once planted directly in the soil. If you love salads, there's nothing quite as satisfying as just harvesting your own super tender lettuce. It's different from anything you can buy at the store. It has flavor. It's not rubbery or tough, full of cellulose. It's just perfect. And one of the things I like the most about this method is that it creates these little tufts that are pretty much the perfect size for one portion of spring lettuce. That way I can just harvest one at a time, and I know exactly what I need. And as they sort of develop by their own pace, some are bigger than others, I can get the bigger ones and let the other ones grow up. And by the end of the month, perhaps, or in a few weeks, I've exhausted the lettuce in this place, and that's when my next batch that I've sown later kicks in. Of course, despite the thunderstorm we had about a week or two ago that did damage some of the leaves, and I can see that, they did bounce back and they grew twice as big. That wasn't a major problem. I hope the weather cooperates so I can have a continuous season of lettuce. But I do know that once summer hits, the other veggies are going to want to grow. The ones that love heat. The tomatoes, the squash, they need their heat too. So by then, lettuce will be retiring a bit. I'll have other things to eat, hopefully the kale and other leafy greens. Ultimately, gardening is all about being in tune with the natural cycles and living according to the seasons. It is about enjoying what each month brings as gifts. As we garden, we learn through experience a bit more of the mysteries of the natural world. Observing the pure burst of energy and growth that happens when the right plant meets rich soil in the right time is magical. And if one of the factors needed to grow it is not quite there, results are just not the same. That is part of the reason why I prefer to grow directly in soil instead of in containers, even if I start seeds in containers at first. Real good soil makes plants sing. To guarantee a continuous supply of lettuce, 2 weeks earlier, I decided to sow another batch of lettuce for summer harvesting. It's time for me to plant another batch of lettuce. It's the first week of June. So we're getting into that tricky window of time when growing lettuce can be difficult. It gets too hot, there's too much light, it just wants to bolt. So of course I'm choosing a tried and true variety. It's the green salad bowl lettuce. In my experience, it's the least likely to bolt early, and I've been able to grow it successfully through July, sometimes even August. Because of that, this is my choice today. I am not going to grow a mesclun. I feel like it's hit or miss. They mix in different varieties. Sometimes they do have the salad bowl type, which performs well, but the other ones don't. They bolt quickly. So I saved the mesclun seeds to grow during spring or later on in the season in autumn. Right now, it's time to grow only the tried and true summer-resisting lettuce. If you want to see how this new batch turns out, don't miss my next episode. See you there.